It's difficult for me to assess where does the Middle East stand in terms of public health services at this point. The easiest way out is to say, of course, there are better places and of course there are worse places. But we're not at a satisfactory place. We're not where we should have been in terms of prevention, in terms of addressing primary health care issues, even in terms of quality tertiary care. A large number of Arab citizens today are not getting the kind of public health and or health services that is decent. In several countries, the private system has taken over this gap and is trying to fill it up, but it comes at a cost. The private sector is out-of-pocket sector. Citizens who want to use the private sector in health have to pay for it. And in the absence of insurance, it's not possible for many Arab citizens to use these services. It is one area where equity is slowly being eroded. In every single Arab country, you will find a center of excellence in primary healthcare, in healthcare in general, or in public health services, but it's not accessible to all. Religion has always been a parameter to define who you are within Lebanon, but it has always been a parameter of who you are politically and not who you are in terms of creed or belief. And so whenever there was conflict between religious groups in Lebanon, it's always been on a political level. It has never been on the level of trying to confront the others, the infidel on the other side, to bring him or her to share my religion. It was more like positioning ourselves vis-a-vis the other in terms of sharing the power. This is not the case elsewhere in the Middle East, where there is some rise in religious fervor. You can see that whereas the end game is political, the manifestations are oftentimes religious intolerance and hatred of the other. Unfortunately, we are regressing to more religiously defined parties in Lebanon. This has started during the prolonged period of civil war in the 80s and is reaching its climax at this point. It's been affecting, certainly to a larger term, the Shia community in Lebanon, which has aligned itself by and large around and behind Hezbollah. It doesn't mean that there are no independently thinking Shia in Lebanon, or people who don't necessarily share all the views and values of Hezbollah, but Hezbollah has become the definer of the identity, of the community identity. And so anyone who is a Shia does not see himself or herself easily coming out from the consensus. For the first time in the pluralistic system in Lebanon, this has created an unusual situation, because usually whenever you had a pro-government Shia, there was an opposition Shia to face him, and it balanced. Whenever you had a Sunni in opposition, there was a pro-government Sunni to face him and create a balance. This time we have seen the whole Shia community in bloc taking the same position and not allowing any diversity. In most Arab nations, much more attention has been turned to developing cities, and rural areas have been relatively neglected. This has meant that we've had a major migration movement, internal migration movement from rural areas to the large cities. And these cities were not ready to receive this kind of population. So now we're stuck with huge cities that are unplanned, congested, with the areas of poor development surrounding the older core towns, and within this area of poor development and poor services, you can imagine that the newly relocated populations will be an easy prey to all sorts of political calls or radical calls or to even criminal activities that would eventually impact on the life of the entire country. We've had this situation recently in a Palestinian refugee camp in North Lebanon, where the ongoing misery in which people were living there has become a fertile land or fertile ground for a criminal gang to come in and use the place for subversive activities. And the whole thing has resulted in a very violent confrontation and the destruction of the camp. And this is happening everywhere. So the rural areas are losing their population. The cities are getting this huge expansion that is unplanned, and this is creating a whole lot of problems at all levels for everyone. I think that that's a major problem that needs to be addressed across the Arab world.